Hello everyone and welcome back to the Great Book of Grudges. My name is Nathan and we're back with another Total War Warhammer video. Today we'll be continuing our speculation videos as to who the next legendary lord for the Beastmen may be. Through this we'll discuss their lore, their rules on the tabletop and how they could be implemented into Total War Warhammer. Today we'll be discussing Taurox, the Brass Bull. So without further ado, let's begin. To better introduce this character to those who may not be aware of him, we'll go over his entry into the Warhammer Fantasy Battles 7th edition army book for the Beastmen. Taurox, the Brass Bull. Slaughterhorn, Blood Beast, the Brazen One. Taurox the Brass Bull is an unstoppable force, a roaring, snorting engine of destruction, virtually impervious to physical harm. Cast in the form of a grotesquely muscled Doomball, Taurox looms over his followers, a mountain of living brass with curving bladed horns and a gnashing metal maw that constantly drools with gore. The Brass Bull was not always a metallic monstrosity. Once a fearsome chieftain of the Minotaur tribes, Taurox enforced his brutal will upon the lesser beasts of the forest by felling any creature who dared meet his stern gaze and then devouring them alive. The Brass Bull was merciless beyond measure, and the ground at his feet was ever wet with the fleshly spilled blood of friend and foe alike. So it was that one night an emissary of the fell powers crawled into the mortal realm from the devastated remains of one of Taurox's rivals. The hellborn nightmare was sinewy and crimson-skinned, coiled with unholy energy, and it met Taurox's gaze with its hollow black eyes. This proved to be a costly mistake. Before it could utter a single syllable in its dark tongue, Taurox grabbed it by its wattled throat and bit off its head. There was a moment's silence, then a violent thrashing as Taurox spasmed and shook. Seized by a vision of a world awash with blood and afloat with corpses, Taurox roared and screamed, biting and clawing at himself in his convulsions, before taking up his axes and slaying every one of his tribe one by one. But he did not stop there. For a year and a day, Taurox raged across the lands in a blind rampage, killing every living thing he could find. Tribes of beastmen, covens of witchens, nomadic Strigony caravans, mercenary ogres, empire patrols, proud knights, two-headed giants, all fell to Taurox's boundless wrath. When he came upon the Vale of Lightburg, he killed so many creatures that a river of blood was born at his feet. Exhausted, Taurox collapsed into the crimson stream, and he would have died then and there, for his energies were completely spent. But the Dark Ones had uses for him still. Under a scarlet moon, Taurox was reborn. He rose up and bellowed his defiance, blood cascading from his now brazen frame, for the gods had rewarded his fell deeds with a body of shining metal. No more would he tire, no more would he have a moment's respite from the rage that consumed him. Taurox drank deep of the gory river he had made, and the blood sluiced and boiled inside his brass body, giving him unholy vitality. Clashing his rune-inscribed axes together in a savage pride, Taurox set off once more and began the slaughter anew. This time he did not stop, and the Brass Bull will not stop until he is somehow put in the grave once and for all. Taurox was quite an interesting character back in the day, a monstrous lord which was quite the powerhouse of melee combat, and I can see why he's so popularly requested to be a legendary lord for the Beastmen in an upcoming Beastmen DLC. Given his lore, you can already see more or less how a plot point for a DLC would go, where Taurox himself is causing destruction wherever he's placed, and it would be up to whoever would be the other DLC legendary lord to finally put him to rest before he can cause too much permanent damage. Sometimes DLC doesn't need an expansive plot. Something like this is simple enough but also works rather well, especially if a character like this is the focus point. The character itself really didn't have a lot of special rules on the tabletop. He had brass body, which went into detail regarding his, well, brass body. For a named character specifically, he was one of the few with a very high armor save, that of a 1+ armor. So it could be imagined that in Total War Warhammer, he would have incredibly high armor and health values. But there is an interesting part to this rule, where if being attacked, if he was hit with a 6, and then wounded with a 6, then if he failed his armor save, he would be slain outright. I'm not sure something like that would be implemented or could be implemented in Total War Warhammer. I mean, could you just imagine if your legendary lord randomly died because some random militia from the Empire managed to get a critical hit? Yeah, that would be really strange, especially if he was at full health. Other than that, the character had his famed axes, the rune-tortured axes, which would grant Taurox the flaming attack special rule and ignore enemy armor, obviously translated to armor piercing. It's a character that indeed really didn't have much, but it can be assumed in terms of faction traits he would have extra movement in the campaign map, and more than likely affect the Minotaurs dramatically, possibly giving the Minotaurs a reduction to upkeep, increased strength, and maybe something along the lines of perfect vigor? I know that would be a bit powerful, but bear in mind that this is obviously a campaign mechanic. Not much would need to be done with this character, and that might work to the benefit of Creative Assembly, as obviously if this character is added in a future Beastmen DLC, one could assume that this would also be around the same time as a Beastmen rework. So the majority of dev time in regards to that would focus around fixing up the Beastmen as a whole, as we've more or less seen in regards to the Twisted and the Twilight, where the Wood Elf rework possibly took more dev time than the actual paid for DLC. It could be rather interesting if Taurox had some campaign specific units too, some brass versions of maybe some other Minotaurs, and maybe some other big beasties. I'm assuming we'll also see some much requested units come into the fray too at this point. But other than that, I think that this pretty much covers everything to say about this character. What would you say would be implemented alongside the brass bull? And do you think that this is a viable legendary lord choice? Let me know your thoughts in the comments below, and let's start a bit of a discussion. But with that, my friends, we've come to the end of our video. Thank you so much for watching. If you did enjoy the video, might I suggest giving the video a like, or even subscribing to the channel, as it really does help us out. In the description section below are various links to different social media platforms such as Facebook, Instagram, and Discord. Also in the description section is an affiliate link with Element Games where you could buy loads of hobby-based products, not just Warhammer, for 10 to 25% off. Making a purchase using that link and also our special code, which is also in the description, supports the channel at no extra cost to you, which we think is rather cool. A big thank you to our patrons. Your support means the world to us. It's amazing that people want to help a small channel like us grow and get to a higher level of content. A big thank you to Gibraltar LUSC, Ryan Bertsche, Andrew Prince, and Okro for subscribing to us at our Fane level. You guys are super cool. And a big thank you to Edward Yule, VS Vasan, Aaron Whitman, and Shaggy for subscribing to us at our King level. Honestly, we can't thank you all enough. And lastly, a big thank you to all of you for liking, sharing, and commenting on these videos. Honestly, it's because of you guys that the channel's been growing at such a great pace lately, so we can't thank you all enough. But with that, my friends, thank you so much for watching once again, and we shall see you all again very, very soon. Have a good day.